Season of the Seraph has been out for about a month and a half now, and with the launch of every season comes a fairly different meta compared to the last. With this in mind, we can expect the general rotation of weapons that the community is using to switch up. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, just for the fun of it, we're going to be taking a look at the top 15 most popular PvE weapons right now in Season of the Seraph. I do these types of videos every season, and I wouldn't be able to do it without the help of Destiny Tracker, so make sure to check them out in the description. Using their site, I can look up the usage percentages in PvE for each weapon in the top 100, and although this list isn't the overall best weapons out there, pretty much every weapon on this list is involved in the meta in some way or another. I'll be going over each weapon starting from 15 and going to 1, talking about why I think it's so popular, where it ranked in the top 15 list last season if it was on it, as well as going over their best perk rolls if they're legendary for those that might want to get in on the fun. With that said, if you enjoy the content today and want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button and leave a like on the video so YouTube's algorithm is kind to me. With that said, let's jump into this. Now, before kicking off the list for the most popular weapons in Destiny 2 PvE, I first want to talk to you about one of the most popular VPN services in the world, Surfshark VPN. I've been using their service recently during my live streams here on YouTube, which has been perfect because of how often things like DDoSing can happen right here online. Thanks to Surfshark though, when I go live, my IP is hidden, my data is protected, and yours can be too by using code demonjoe, which provides a 83% discount plus 3 months for free on top of that. Surfshark is an incredibly easy service to use as well. Does your Destiny drip just not hit the same as everyone else's? Well, now you can find the guides you need in complete secrecy without anyone ever knowing. See, I just changed my location to France and was able to find the info I needed without a single soul having a clue. And just like that, I'm looking fantastic. Of course, for a more serious use, I actually love that Surfshark can allow you to use different countries' versions of Netflix, for example, to watch shows and movies you otherwise couldn't see. With all that said, try Surfshark VPN today and use my code demonjoe or scan the QR code on screen to get 83% off and 3 months added to your plan with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Thanks again to Surfshark for the sponsor, and now onto the content. Kicking off the list for today, here at number 15, we have everyone's favorite exotic sword, the Lament. This weapon actually never made it into the top 15 for last season's video, so congratulations. The Lament comes from an exotic quest after beating Beyond Light's main campaign, and is most notable nowadays for being pretty much the best DPS sword out there thanks to its chainsaw rev and combo system. It's mostly used during the Duality Dungeon first boss encounter, as well as during the Aatrax encounter in Deepstone Crypt, with that probably being the driving factor behind its jump in popularity. More people are running the raid than ever thanks to DSC weapons making their way to the crafting system, but either way, congrats to Lament for making the list. Number 14, Cataclysmic. I'm so glad to see Cataclysmic finally make the top 15, as it was nowhere to be seen in last season's list, and it seems like more people are catching on to how great it is. Either that or they're finally getting it. Anyways, Cataclysmic comes from the Vow of the Disciple raid, and is most notable for having the best overall ammo economy for linears, thanks to rolling with 4th times the charm, combined with the best overall damage perk, Bait and Switch, which is going to provide a 35% boost to damage. If I had to guess, Cataclysmic probably rose in popularity due to the recent release of the Spire of the Watcher dungeon. The Harpy encounter features a boss with a fairly tanky health bar, and Cataclysmic is fantastic to stay on top of ammo economy and your overall damage. If you haven't yet picked one up from the Witch Queen raid, I'd highly recommend doing so. Number 13, Trinity Ghoul. Last season's ranking, number 11. Previously being featured at number 11, Trinity Ghoul stays quite consistent by managing to keep itself among the top most used weapons in the game. For those that live under the deepest layer of the Earth's crust, Trinity Ghoul is one of the best add clear primaries in the game. After getting a kill, firing your next arrow causes lightning to spread from the landing spot and tagging any enemy around it. This can be done by hitting an enemy directly or even doing something as simple as shooting the ground and still reaping the benefits of clearing the room of enemies. If you're running an activity where you know plenty of adds will be present like the Totems encounter in King's Fall, Trinity Ghoul puts in work like no other, especially with the enemies being fairly spread out, not allowing for Wither Horde to be most effective. Number 12, Submission. This kinetic SMG was not featured during last season's top 15 list, and I'm kinda surprised to see it have a rise in popularity now. This is probably mainly due to 𝗁𝗄𝗏 truly setting in as the most recent raid, allowing 𝗏 the Disciple to be farmable and therefore more people getting their hands on this thing. In the age of build crafting alongside the element of your subclass and weapons, however, I'm personally not very fond of this weapon and would much rather use the prolonged engagement due to its massive selection of perks combined with stasis synergy. That said, you really can't knock the submission too much. It has great stats, sits in a great archetype, and actually can be crafted with the Overflow and Frenzy God roll right from level 1 after you get all the patterns. So perhaps that's probably why it retains quite a lot of use from players in the community. Number 11, Gjallarhorn. Last season's ranking, number 3. Now, this one took me for a massive spin because, look, I get it. Gjallarhorn got a nerf to start the season with its base rocket seeing a decrease in overall damage, but damn, like I did not think the community would drop this weapon as hard as they did, especially considering not only is Gjallarhorn still meta to use against War Priest and Daughters and 𝗁𝗄𝗏, Taniks in the Deepstone Crypt, but it's also meta when facing the final boss of the newly released Spire dungeon. Pairing Hothead, Bump of the Night, or whatever legendary rocket you still use with Gjallarhorn remains a very effective meta strategy that beats linears in multiple different cases. Still, I guess the general population just views linear fusions as a much easier option overall, or perhaps they're not running raids or dungeons as much as I think. Either way, number 3 down to number 11 is a massive drop for a weapon that I still consider very meta, but it's okay, Gally, I still love you. Number 10, Xenophage. Last season's ranking, number 9. Fairly consistent showing here from everybody's favorite heavy machine gun. Although I personally don't use Xeno outside of Vault of Glass Oracles, a lot of people still seem to really rock with this thing. I use Xeno on such rare occasions that I actually took to Twitter to ask you guys, when and where do you use Xeno? And what I got from that Twitter thread was, there are a few areas like VoG Oracles or 𝗁𝗄𝗏 Totems, DSC Security, etc., but most people seem to be rocking Xeno when they don't exactly know what other exotic they want to equip, which is totally fair. If I'm rocking a 𝗁𝗏𝗏 Fusion, my favorite energy primary, and I'm wondering what should take up my heavy slot, Xeno definitely isn't the worst choice out there, so I can respect that. Number 9, The Other Half. Last season's ranking, number 13. It looks like more and more people are finally getting around to crafting their favorite purple Kool-Aid sword, because it shows. I'd like to think that this rise in popularity might be because of the recent Gerfalcon Hunter meta, and people are crafting their god roll with Eager Edge and Repulsor Brace, but I don't think that's the case. If it is though, and you did craft that exact same thing, then let me know. Overall though, it's probably just more simple than that, and players over time are getting their red box other halves, and finally getting around to crafting the skating sword of their dreams. Please Bungie, never remove skating from this franchise, it's simply too much fun. Thank you. Number 8, Retrofit Escapade. And if I had to imagine, it won't be clearing the top 15 ever again because, well, I'll just let the Drifter handle this one. Ooh! Yeah, turns out the whole volatile round thing was a bug, and now I feel super glad that I didn't ever actually craft this thing. It was never better than linear fusion rifles anyways, so I never bought into the hype personally. That said, it is at number 8 during the recording of this video, so hey, at least the legendary machine gun accomplished something notable, right? Number 7, Funnel Web. Last season's ranking, number 11. Yep, we continue to see a trend in void weapons rising in popularity due to the Gerfalcon Hunter build. Although if we're being honest here, Heart of Inmost Titan also probably has something to do with this, plus Controverse or Verity's Warlock continuing to be amazing. Regardless, I've talked about Funnel Web a billion times on this channel already, but just know that Subsistence combined with Frenzy is the god roll, and nowadays, when paired with volatile rounds, Funnel Web feels better than Recluse ever did. It's one of the best void SMGs out there, although I will continue to stay dead on the hill that Unforgiven is the superior option. It's just that not enough people have gotten their best roll yet. Either that or I'm coping. I'm probably coping. Number 6, Arbalest. Last season's ranking, number 2. You know, despite Bungie nerfing this thing, it never really felt that much different, and if you want me to be honest with you, I don't think 𝗿𝗏𝗡 fell down a few pegs because it got nerfed. I think it's just because people are so tired of how good it is. It just gets boring, man. People are moving on to other options like Wish Ender, Revision Zero, etc. because 𝗿𝗏𝗡 has just been this do-it-all god gun inside a match game and champion content, and I think people are just fatigued with the playstyle. That said, I do think it will see a tremendous fall off in Lightfall when match game gets removed, but until then it sits right at number 6 for this season's popularity list. Number 5, Forbearance. Last season's ranking, number 6. Ah yes, everyone's favorite legendary weapon that's so powerful it should be an exotic wave frame grenade launcher. For the same reason I mentioned when talking about submission, I think 𝗷𝗚𝗏𝗡 being farmable for this long has finally allowed people to get in the raid and come away with either a god roll or the crafted pattern. This weapon with chain reaction and ambitious assassin pretty much power creeps almost any other form of ad clear in the game, and yeah, that's not even an understatement. Forbearance is an absolute monster of a weapon, so I'm not even surprised to see it this high at all. Number 4, Taipan 4FR. Last season's ranking, number 1. Here at number 4, we meet once again with our beloved Taipan. Probably one of the most overrated weapons that's out there, at least whenever it first came out, but don't let that fool you. Despite people singing its praises just a little too much, the Taipan deserves to be this high up on the list. It's a linear that can roll triple tap firing line, has Vice Stinger, and is one of the easiest to get crafted weapons in the game. Personally, I'm a much bigger fan of 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗔𝗍 for raid style content, or even Reed's Regret due to easier font stacking, but I'm always using my Taipan inside of Voidburn GM Nightfalls when I'm looking to put out massive champion damage. Number 3, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Mini Tool. Last season's ranking, number 4. This weapon right here, there just isn't really any other way to put it, but this weapon is essentially the best solar primary in the game for most content that you'll be running. It sits at a meta-defining 900 RPM for an SMG, is craftable with enhanced incandescent, and can even have that perk paired with unrelenting for crazy amounts of survivability. If you're running any solar subclass whatsoever, 9 out of 10 times you'll probably want this beast by your side the entire time. Season of the Haunted may have been a pretty crummy season, but this weapon single-handedly felt like the light shining in the darkness. Just an overall really fun weapon to use and extremely effective. Number 2, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 SMG. Making its top 15 debut here in today's video, we find ourselves with the reissued 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 SMG, which is the version 1.0.3, which just so happens to be the version that's rolling with Feeding Frenzy and Volt Shot. Now, just to mix a bit of personal opinion in here, I'm much more of a 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Mini Tool guy myself, but with the popularity of Gathering Storm Hunter or Heart of Inmost Titan, pretty much anyone who's running these two playstyles is going to have this bad boy equipped. The 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 SMG has had a long history with Destiny 2, going from being that great SMG that spawns Warmind cells, to being that great SMG I use when I want to have demo, to finally that SMG that is essentially a baby risk runner. Congrats to the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 SMG, but overall it's gonna fall short of number 1. And that spot can only go to the king. Here at number 1, we have the Witherhoard. Last season's ranking, number 5. Yes, the king of being that one exotic that will gladly take up your exotic slot when nothing else is. Remember what I said earlier about Xenophage? Well, the reason I don't use Xenophage is because when I don't have my exotic slot taken, whereas some people fill that hole with Xeno, I fill it with Witherhoard every time. And judging by its ranking on today's list, it looks like a lot of other people do it as well. With build crafting being as popular as it is, people more than ever are wanting to focus on their elemental primaries with their elemental perks to best synergize with their build. Take that combined with the fact that Witherhoard is the perfect weapon for bait and switch 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, is perfect when running a Starfire Warlock build, among tons of other things, you see that Witherhoard is just a fantastic weapon to have for just about every occasion. I'd probably say what tipped Witherhoard over the edge to making the number 1 spot is probably due to Gjallarhorn falling so far down the list after its nerf, which cleared up an exotic slot for many players in their day-to-day sessions playing Destiny 2. Regardless of the hows or whys, I'm glad to see Witherhoard at number 1. It's my all-time favorite exotic in the entire Destiny franchise, and easily the best season pass exotic that has ever graced this game's PvE sandbox. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is your top 15 list for the most popular weapons right now in Destiny 2 PvE. The Season of the Seraph episode of this series was definitely a wild one, as there were many weapons in areas I didn't expect, but I hope that made the video all the more fun for you to watch. And guys, just to level with you for those that are still watching, seriously, thank you so much for clicking on this video and supporting it. This is the first video I've done with a sponsor in it in months, and I really appreciate you watching and supporting myself. It goes a long way, so I just wanted to get that off my chest. And with that said, I also have some gratitude to show towards my Patreon supporters and YouTube members, so thank you. For Patreon, shout out to Admus, Vile, John, Serenity, and BoomerNoob in Tier 2, as well as Austin, 𝘁𝗵𝗄, and 𝗵𝗏 in Tier 3, as well as my Tier 2 YouTube members Bluesman, Clear, Imposter, Angel, Ben McClellan, Hank the Tank, Mayhem Gaming, Nimble Fox, Mamimi, Peak, and Serenity once more. With that said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.